What's up, gang? Brian B.
Miss Emily.
And Miss Megan.
With Mr. Ben behind the camera. Maybe he'll come on and say hi to us. So we have our Q&A session. We just finished up Musicality. I know we had a 30-second mic glitch in the middle, but that might have been my favorite class ever that I taught, and that's probably not even exaggeration. I was on fire. I was fired up about it this morning, and the sun came out today. I got to go for a run. It was good times, so it's great. So what kind of questions do we have? Tim says, awesome night, thank you. You are welcome, Mr. Tim. So, where's our Facebook feed? We'll grab our Facebook feed here too.
Refresh it.
Any questions, kids? Because I got some questions. I got some questions for you. By you, I mean you.
We have questions for you too.
Yeah.
You cheated. You cheated.
No, we didn't.
So first of all, State of the Union, what's going on here in Louisville, Kentucky? We have been shooting a lot of videos for you guys. We said the Musicality class course on, or class on YouTube, free video on YouTube. We are working on redoing our Musicality course. As we went through it, we found it's really good, but over the years we've learned more about the buckets of the three types of people that are struggling with musicality and what they need specifically. So we're refining that to get you through all the buckets, right? Both dancing to the beat of the music and staying on time, to connecting your patterns to the music, to the skill sets that you need to become great musical dancers. How do you dance to blues as compared to pop? Alfred asked.
Blues keeps popping
Good
up.
question. That's popped up twice. So it's Q&A. We're going to cover that. Thanks for asking, Alfred. So again, it took us 30 minutes to scratch the surface a little bit of musicality. So there are different things. I think the girls covered it in their styling course with rolling through the feet, right? Blues is kind of a rolling, kind of a swung beat feeling, right? So it doesn't have a lot of hard edges. So from that standpoint, we are not doing anything harsh to the music. We are rolling through the beat. So that kind of gets into a technical aspect of what's going on. The other big difference is blues is typically phrased in 48s. So if you imagine we drew out the eights briefly on that YouTube video, 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of eights, that's 32. Blues typically has 2 more, right? So if I want to get to the next major accent that's on the 1, I need to wait 48 beats before I get back to the 1. So that's the biggest difference, is the phrasing and the feel of the music. So hopefully that answers your question. If you have a more specific question, let me know. So Jean says that, this is going to YouTube. Jean says it looks like it's more important for the leader to count straight eights and accent the 1, more so than the follower. Is that true? Well, the leader, obviously, I think, and you guys can chime in, I as the leader feel like I have a little bit more control of the dance because I'm making more choices, right? So I feel like, yes, the leader, it's more important than the leader. If I do that to a follower that doesn't understand, I can probably make her feel like she's accenting the music, right? But from the follower's perspective,
If you're counting straight eights as the followers, or you have an awareness of what the straight eights are, you can always accent on your own, as long as it doesn't disturb your leader.
yeah, so from my standpoint, if I'm walking back on the 1, 2 and there's an accent, and thank you, Wayne, again, for talking about the hitch, and Megan or Emily hitched on that 1, 2, I would feel that accent, right? I could feel it through the connection in their body. So as the follower, it is important for sure, because all of your styling options are going to come off of that. You want to talk about styling options and counting straight eights as the follower?
So kind of going back to your basic patterns and knowing those forward and backwards, like knowing those like the back of your hand, I guess is a better way to say that, will enable you to kind of do different variations if you know where you're supposed to be at a certain point. So like we said, we talked about the anchor. If you connect on the 4 of a 6 count pattern or the 6 of an 8 count pattern, you have a little bit more freedom to kind of do what you want to do for that anchor, as long as it doesn't take away from the connection. So as long as you know where you're supposed to be on a 2, 4, 6, or 8, if it's a whip, that gives you a little bit more freedom as a follower to kind of do some different, if you want to do a ronde, if you want to take out a triple and do 2 steps instead, or a roll, or a body isolation, any of that. That enables you to do that a little bit easier.
And keep in mind, Jean, like when I'm teaching, obviously I'm teaching from the leader's perspective because I'm a leader more often than not. I'm teaching followers more often than not. So it's a little bit more heavily weighted to the leaders, like I'm initially starting from the leader's perspective. But the analogy I use, and the girls hear this all the time, as the leader, this is I'll tell you a pivot story, right? So Meghan and I have danced together for 15 plus years, right? And so at one point Emily says, hey, you don't like doing pivots as well with me. But I always say that when the follower is doing something well and it works, the leader gets confused and thinks that it's him, right? So if an amateur leader is dancing with a professional follower, he's going to think, boy, everything works, I'm okay. And then he dances with an equivalent level amateur follower and it doesn't work as well. It's because the higher level follower, the professional, was making up for it. So coming back to the pivot thing, I just threw myself under the bus and I said, well, apparently if I was that good at pivots, I could do it equally well with both people. But maybe it's Meghan that's making up for me in the particular pivot. So it is important to take ownership of your own role and level that up as best you can. And that will translate to the leader. It will allow me to raise my game from that perspective. So I like that comment though. Gordon says, hi from Singapore. Hi again. Holly says, Miss Meghan, I really love the tops that you wear. They're so flowy and look awesome when you're dancing. Where do you shop? This is not the first time we've got this question or this comment.
So this top and actually a couple more that I have just like this, I went and bought tons of them. They were at Nordstrom Rack and I can't find them anymore. So that really sucks. What's really funny is I went shirt shopping today on Amazon because I wanted more flowy shirts. You can get a lot of stuff at Express. They have a lot of nice stuff that's flowy as well. But really it's just when I get lucky, when I go shop and I sometimes get lucky and find shirts that I like.
So speaking of clothes, Miss Emily has quite the cool anchor shirt on. She's very well themed for our classes today.
West Coast Wednesday!
And she's been working on some stuff in our store on YouTube. So if you go below this video, you'll see a store. And so she has, what's the word? A collection? Curated. She has curated a collection of fine West Coast swing and dance merchandise. That's the word. YouTubers.
Merch. It's called merch.
Yeah, so we got cool stuff. So we actually had a question about this. So that shirt might pop up with a little West Coast swing thing going on. So check that out in the description below. It's kind of fun stuff. Holly says, thanks for the classes. This has been awesome. It's awesome for us too, right? Like this is for me, and you guys can speak too, like the normalcy of coming to the studio in the evening is kind of normal and that's kind of gone. So for us, we're just coming here and working as a team. That's cool. And there's no one else in here but us.
I need human interaction. I don't do well by myself, so I need this.
Yeah.
So it's good for me. I'm glad it's good for you too.
And Ms. Meghan, the introvert of the group, can you explain people your personality and why you don't talk on camera so much? So they stop yelling at me.
I am an introvert, but really I'm a shy introvert, especially on camera, which you wouldn't maybe be able to tell right now. But yeah, I'm okay in private lessons and group classes because that's my comfort zone. But for the most part, I don't like talking to people.
Which you would not get if you met her in person. I tell everyone who asks that. I was like, just take a lesson from Meghan. Meet Meghan in person. You're going to be good to go. But just the act of talking into the microphone and that. Emily and I have no issue. Benjamin behind the camera has no issue. So bless him, my extroverted friend who's playing the quiet role behind the camera.
He just needs interaction too. He's happy to be out of his house.
So more question, how does the lead invite his or her follower to do a hitch? So as the leader, I'm gonna go sideways and Miss Emily is here, right? Like as I'm moving away, ooh, there goes the microphone, darn. As I'm moving away, if you guys can see this, let me put these back in my pocket. As I'm moving away, so how do I invite the follower to do a hitch, right? If I'm moving back, if I keep this with me and I move on one, right? I'm making my follower move. I'm not inviting her to do the hitch. But if the one beat comes and I don't move that hand, right? Maybe I move my body. So you can see Emily's reacting to my body moving because we're well connected. But if this is the one and she's really good at the first bucket of musicality, she knows where she needs to be on two, so she catches up and two. So the question specifically is, how do I initiate as the leader? On the 1, I stretch my body back because I'm on the way to and 2. Does that make sense? So I'm on the way with my body. The 1 goes by in the music, but I have not taken Miss Emily with me, and she can feel that connection build up, and she's good enough to know where she needs to be on the 2, and off she goes. It is not an easy thing. We did a video specifically on this for that very reason. It is not an easy concept. It requires bucket 1 of the musicality, knowing where you need to be on 2, 4, 6, and 8, and it requires a connection between both partners, not just one.
But they're fun.
They're fun. So that handles Lisa's question. Wayne says, when you guys are counting 8s, do you do it differently on the first and third phrases rather than the minor second and fourth phrases?
Look at you, musical guy.
Wayne is deep into bucket 2, even into bucket 3, where we're not only understanding the 1s in the music, we're understanding maybe 1s and 5s. We're understanding that each set of 8 has typically an accent, but that each set of 8 is different from one another typically in the music, right? So yes, for sure. I think each song has a structure. We call it mapping the music in our musicality course. You can get that in a link in the description below, or at least sign up for it because it's not finished yet, the revamp of it. But yeah, 100% there is a difference in the first, second, third, and fourth set of 8s in a 32-beat phrase. And I think that changes song to song, right? So that's why I recommend writing out, we cover in our course, we write out the 8s because it starts to lock you in. And once you kind of uncover, I call it mapping the music, you kind of uncover what the first and third set of 8s sounds like versus the second and fourth in that song and where the accents are typically, and it lets you start to predict the music. So absolutely, and at this stage, I don't think about it. I don't think about it. Next question, Ella says on YouTube, if you are learning other dances like salsa, bachata, or ballroom, how do you keep from getting the patterns or rhythm confused? Who wants to take a stab at this? How do you keep the patterns or rhythms from being confused in ballroom versus swing versus country versus dance to dance?
Well, every dance has its own timing. Waltz is a 3 count or a 6 count, however you want to look at that. So in waltz, you'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your steps are going to be according to that timing. Bachata is a different pattern altogether, and you're going to count straight 8s in that too. Really, it has everything to do with counting straight 8s for most dances. Stuff like rumba and salsa, you can also count in quicks and slows, so that helps. That would be my take.
I think it's a whole lot of practice too. So understanding where the quicks and slows are, but also I know I have a couple of students that do a wide range of things. So they have,
including us, all of us.
Yes, we do a wide range. But for me, when I was learning too, I had to specifically like, today I'm going to do rumba and I'm going to repeat this so many times. And so for me, kind of, and I think my students do this too, they kind of pick a day or they pick a specific amount of time that they work on just one dance, and then they move on from there, so they can kind of change their mindset too, which makes going to a dance with a mixed variety of styles a little bit easier for them as well.
Yeah, and in the beginning, and I've spent quite a bit of time years ago on the learning process, and I think it is important for in the beginning to focus, right, on, there's always the battle, like, do you do just one dance or do you do multiple dances? Which one is the better way? And I think it depends on you for sure. And I think probably mathematically, it's better to focus on a dance for a period of time, right? Because you don't want to get so automatic that all dancing is to you is one particular rhythm, because then you'll struggle with changing the rhythm, because music comes on and you're just connected to that single rhythm of cha-cha, and then West Coast swing messes you up completely, right? So there is a point, I actually have a drill in cha-cha that changes every 8 beats, right? And I did it a little bit in the musicality class where I did tap, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, step for 8 beats, and then I switched to triple steps. So what that does is keep you honest, right? It keeps you from just being able to default. You have to think about the switches between the rhythms. So that, to me, much like counting straight 8s is for musicality, it's a big leap to where you can switch rhythms automatically and it doesn't mess you up. So once you get to that point of kind of understanding a basic dance, go to the next one. It will confuse the first one a little bit, But eventually you'll develop the ability to dance those dances separately and hold on to the timing separately. And then you've basically unlocked the ability to do that over and over. And you'll know this story. I broke my arm years ago, going on,
Long time ago.
a long time ago. It's a long time ago now. Time has flown. And so while my arm was broken, I was teaching all my lessons like either with one hand or not with no hands at all. And I had a student that danced with me for almost 10 years, and she came in and was in her big learning phase while I had a broken arm. So she learned a lot of her routines all by herself. And the advantage to that was for the rest of her 9-year dance career after that, she insisted on dancing everything by herself first. It unlocked her brain to dancing everything by herself without relying upon the lead, right? So that kind of comes back around to the, if you just rely upon the basic timing of one dance and then that's all dancing is to you, you'll struggle when you change. So that's Ellie's. Jean says, thank you. Brian, Megan, and Emily, what do you see the future of dance cruises will be?
We're hopeful.
We're hopeful. So for these of you guys who are, we run a dance cruise company. We do all sorts of things for dances. Dancefun.com, we run a dance cruise company. We've currently been doing 3 cruises a year across different styles. We had a salsa one that went out in March. We did a swing and country one back in October. We had a swing and country one coming up. So we are I am heavily dug into understanding that question. And I don't know. Here's good and bad news. Bad news, no cruises are going for a while. Royal Caribbean, who we're supposed to go to Alaska with in July, just reached out and said they're supposed to start cruising again in May. And they will be going back to Alaska starting July 2nd. So our Alaska cruise on July 10th is still going. How will it affect the cruise industry? For dancers specifically, good. And I'll explain why. Because space on the ships has been troublesome for us as dancers. So it's a struggle for us as a company to find space on the ships. So the slight downturn in people going on boats will probably open up space for us as dancers. That's good. We have learned, talking about buckets of people, the temperament of people. There's some people that just don't want anything to do with cruising because they just don't want to. They're the ones that have been holed up for 4 weeks in their house and before anyone told them not to. But then we've had people that said, I don't care, I love dancing, I love cruising, I'm going down with the boat, keep my money, I'm going regardless, right? So for those of you guys who have that temperament, I think the future is actually bright. How quickly it will turn around, we are still hopeful for July, and Royal Caribbean has told us that's good, but who knows with the state of the union. That's the future cruises. We're getting to the rest of the questions, we're catching up. Claudia says, I agree about the stronger follower, but Miss Megan look, what does that say?
She makes you look good, everybody else wants to dance with you.
Miss Megan makes me look good that everyone else wants to dance with me. Go, Megan, I'll let you answer that question. Introvert. Miss Emily, you know us both. Answer that question for the fine people.
I think that you both fill each other's skills out.
Can you get our
So
let's make this a Kentucky.
you are a good partnership.
Yeah, let's go. So we're in Kentucky. For those of you guys who don't know, this is the land of 3 things. Horse racing, Kentucky Derby, which has been moved to the first Saturday in September instead of the first Saturday in May. Louisville Sluggers and bourbon. For those of you guys who want to know, this is Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, and just for the occasion.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I felt professionally, I wasn't supposed to drink on the job, but since this is unofficial, we will go for it.
This is our fireside chat.
It's our fireside chat.
Our
Yes.
studio chat.
But Miss Megan does make me look good. We have danced together virtually every week since July of 2004. I have that in a written calendar far before iPhones, when Megan was the shy student who looked at her feet. While teaching her West Coast swing, she looked at her feet and then looked up at me and said, I don't like this, and looked back down. And here we are today.
True story.
So Rick says, how do you learn musicality when a song comes on without just standing there? How do you learn musicality? Do I understand
When
that
to
question?
start.
When to start? Is that what your question is, Rick?
Like when to start the pattern.
When to start the pattern. So that goes into bucket 1, right? Understanding the basic timing of songs and counting songs and mapping songs in those 8s will help understand where the 1 is, so you know where to start. Here's the good news in West Coast Swing. You can start on 1, 3, 5, or 7. You know, you can start walking back 1, 2. That's typical, like 95% of us. You can start back on 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8. You can start on 5, 6. You can start on 7, 8. All of those timings will work. So you got a 50-50 chance. If that didn't answer your question, please let me know.
I also have students listen to music in the car and start listening for the beats, and when they're driving, hopefully not wrecking, but you know, listen for the beat and try and find the 1 through that avenue.
So, and because West Coast Swing has been going on so long, Tango Tribe has brought something to my attention that I've never thought of until this very moment. Is there a way for YouTube to auto-generate captions for live feeds? I know that some creators don't think about it, the fact that people are hard of hearing, so they don't turn on captions for their videos. Maybe there is a live setting for live feed. I know that there is, and we've actually talked about this.
Caption.
Yeah, about captioning the videos going forward. There's a setting in YouTube, so we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Shub might have some interest, some ability to do that. I don't know about the live feed if they can do that automatically. In fact, I'm quite certain they can't, but we can caption videos in arrears. I will look into that. Put that on your list, please, my dear. How does musicality apply to country two-step? That's an even more complex question because of the way people count two-step. So I count it, quick, quick, slow, slow is 1 and 2, 3. There are people who count it 1, 2, 3, hold 4, 5, hold 6. Which way do you count it?
I think 1 and 2, 3.
1 and 2, 3, probably because of me.
I'm a product of
No,
you, so.
that was a Bernie thing.
Yeah. So depending upon how you choose to count it, will adjust things a little bit. It is a less musical dance, I think.
There are bigger ones more frequently. One, it's faster music, but also I believe it's in 16, beats of 16 and not 32. So there are big and little 8s, but there are still definitely things to hit in two-step.
Yeah, it's probably because of the density, I call it density of two-step, meaning the amount of stuff that's going on in 8 beats. There's less ability to break away and be musical. It tends to be more on the bigger ones or the bigger phrase changes, and that there's probably less high-level people, especially now in the past decade of YouTube and the growth of West Coast Swing worldwide and the athleticism and the level of dancing really being leveled up and country not catching up in the same way. I think you see less musicality, so it's actually less talked about, but it's interesting. So if you guys don't know, we're about to launch a site. The gist of it's set up, countrydanceonline.com. So kind of our background a little bit, and we can talk about backgrounds of all of us, but country dance, I started in a bar as a line dancer and then immediately into two-step and West Coast. So country dance has been in my blood the whole time. We started West Coast Swing as a way to serve the community, and now it's my goal to really grow and support country dancers, both in bars and socially. So Country Dance Online is coming, and so we might dig into that musicality question. What else do we have?
Do you have any plans to travel to California?
Oh, do we have any plans to travel to California for an event at some point? Not right now, Mr. Jesse. There have been threats about us coming out there, and nothing has materialized officially. But when the craziness is done, if you're interested, shoot us an email, brian@westcoastswingonline.com, and we can talk about coming out there. Emily and I go watch spring training baseball out in Phoenix, and my stepbrother lives in LA, so we're out there maybe once a year or so. And so someone says, so quarantine is a thing. Many of us can't hang out with dance partners like me, Brian. What is the best way to train solo for dance, and what about conditioning training? I ran in the park today. There was a lot of people in the park, and here's an interesting thing about the park. Lots of people. Usually when you're running down a path in the park, no one gets out of your way. But now I feel like I have cooties. People jump out of my way as I run by, breathing and hacking up along.
Gosh, I hope not.
No.
We shouldn't be here right
be
now.
out of shape.
Yeah, so, but to answer your question, we have a blog post. If you go to Google and do Practice West Coast Swing Alone, we redid the site early this year, and we really congregated a lot of the information of these blog posts. So whatever you're looking for, Google it. We probably have a big blog post on it. So do you have any
There's
specific?
also the Robakowskis that you can do by yourself because it's a line dance that does both leader and follower footwork for a whole bunch of the basics for West Coast.
And we're redoing that. We did that in a live video, and that was early last week when we weren't quite as good at this.
It's put together.
Yeah, put together. So we're down now. So there is a blog post that you can, if you just Google West Coast Swing Practice Without a Partner or Practice Alone, there is a really detailed blog post with links out to videos that talk about things you can do, drills rolling through your feet, body isolations, how to practice musical phrasing, rolling through your feet. We have a video on posture, weight transfer. We talk about, the girls kind of covered it, incrementally rolling through the feet early on in their styling video. We have a video on what you can do for balance, shaping. We have a West Coast Swing styling checklist. The video for counting straight eights is on there. So there's a ton of resources there on how to practice West Coast Swing alone. Where are we? Questions? Rather than standing there waiting for the beat to enter on, the dancer could be swaying side to side to get into the musicality like one of your other musicality videos. Yes, so we could.
step.
Do you want to demo that? Why don't you guys demo that? You want to talk about that? Oh, I got to stand here as the video. I'll talk. Right, so they're connected. Who's the leader? Miss Emily is the leader, right? So, if normally, can you do a starter step normally? We'll get this out of the way. If they starter step normally, right, they would go 1 and 2, 3 and 4, right? So they would land on the near side foot. So Miss Emily's left foot, Meghan's right foot. This comes to the 2, 4, 6, 8 drill we covered early in musicality. But if they swayed, they would go 1, freeze, 2. So it's just like they tripled. They ended on this foot, and then instead of tripling back, they go 5 and 6 or 3 and 4.
Connect away.
And connect away. Does that make sense? So if you did that again, I'm going to stand kind of here so you can see me. Ready, and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So the sway keeps them in time while feeling the music. And there's some actual high-level genius West Coast swing dancers, Matt O'Clair, who I've heard say that he doesn't like the triple at all in those situations because he likes to feel the music and his partner. So thank you, Tango Tribe. That is a good point. Alfred says, how about visiting Seattle? Are you starting the Alaska cruise in Seattle? Yes. If all goes well, we still have 77 remaining passengers for our Alaska cruise. Troopers going out July 10th. If you want on that and everything turns around, inevitably there will still be space available.
Tons.
So you can hit us up through West Coast Swing online, or you can go to dancefund.com and enter your email us or call us there. Rick says thanks. Tribe.
Them.
Thanks, Tribe.
Thanks, Tango Tribe.
Thanks, Tango Tribe. Director Victoria, 2011, says, I've shared your live classes online with my dancing partners group. We do Ballroom and beyond. This is so cool while we're not able to meet up with our dance group. Thank you. Yeah, so it was our goal. We decided to kind of cast the net wide. You know, we're West Coast Swing Online, but we do all sorts of stuff. So we have done, what you thinking? We've done all sorts of stuff, right? We've done bachata and salsa and rumba and cha-cha and West Coast swing in different levels. We did country swing. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. On that note, I'm gonna ask a question. We're gonna get to your questions in a second. What's your favorite dance?
My favorite dance, I have two different favorite dances. Socially, I really like West Coast swing because you get to just do kind of what you want within reason. I'm always in the box because that's just who I am. But and then competitively, I love two-step. I love to spin.
Two-step and polka. How about you? I'll answer mine in a second. Miss Emily, what are your favorite dances?
I thought that was your answer.
No, my favorite to do if I had to pick one dance, West Coast swing, super versatile, lots of music, super cool. I always have one that I love to do like kind of competitively, and that generally that's been like cha-cha. That's generally been cha-cha, a little bit of polka at some points. But cha-cha, because polka is just a whirlwind of what's going on.
What about it?
Your students still have audio, camera battery.
Oh, camera battery.
It's charged over there.
So, and then there's always a dance that I enjoy learning, and so that changes. Waltz is probably the last one. Mr. B, Mr. 501. Oh, there goes our camera battery for.
Can I answer?
Yeah, we're off.
Okay.
No, you're good. You still have audio.
We still have audio. Okay, hang with us, YouTube. We're replacing the battery in the camera.
That was Ben's hand.
We're right now looking at Ben's cell phone. Hang with me, YouTube. Facebook, hang on. You guys can still see us. So we ordered a plug-in battery for the camera, but Amazon is not shipping right now, so that won't be here for several weeks. Only essential things.
They delivered to me today.
Must be essential. Okay, so we're back.
Are we?
It's a delay.
It's a delay. Okay, cool. So, are we coming to British Columbia, Canada in the future? Not that I know of. We're supposed to be in Calgary, Alberta, Canada for the Calgary Dance Stampede in 2 weeks, but that got canceled. Director Victoria 2011 says, thank you, Megan and Emily, for the practice routine anchor step styling in an earlier class. You're welcome. If you guys missed that, you can just go to the YouTube channel, West Coast Swing Online/YouTube. Can we demo a steal of West Coast Swing? That's a good thing to add to our list. I don't think we can right now with the current setup. That might be.
Think we have enough room.
Yeah, that might be a little messy. This sign. Nice raid advertisement on your phone, Benjamin.
Yeah.
Can we see your friend?
Judith says,
See you, Ben.
Ben needs a haircut.
It doesn't
come on,
matter.
Benjamin. Come on around here, buddy. So Ben,
That was going to happen at some point.
Ben also started here as our student, and he is now Emily's professional partner.
And I'm pretty sure
So
you're
there's
too
Ben.
tall.
No, you're too tall. You're so tall. There's Ben. So he has helped us behind the scenes for the past week and a half with stuff because we need someone to keep everything running. So thank you, sir.
Of course.
Is that?
Elbow.
Boom. We're legal.
Ow.
Sorry. It's like
Ow.
elbow beat in the back.
Russ says, hey, Ben, look forward to seeing you up in Indy soon. So Ben has been traveling around to local dance communities. Oh, you were seen.
Too tall.
Yeah, it's good times. Questions from Henry on Facebook says that he's an introvert too. I like introverts. They're nice. They're quiet while we talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for editing the Rock and Go video, I assume.
I think so.
Yep, George, we've got a Rock and Go video coming out. Kelly says, pass the bourbon. This is, let's talk a little bourbon for a second. So we all have Woodford Reserve, and this is double oaked. So I put it back in the barrel for a period of months to add more flavor to it. And so hence the smaller bottle, it's not as easily found. It's really good. People who... It's better, yeah. What's that say?
That's in regards to Megan saying she didn't want to come back, or she didn't like it.
Didn't like...
Oh, in the
Her
beginning
lesson,
when I
her
didn't
lesson,
like
she
West
looked at
Coast
her feet.
Swing.
She looked at her feet and said she didn't like it.
Megan looked at her feet and said she didn't like West Coast Swing. She never actually left. She kept doing it. Yeah, she kept doing it. So yeah, she hasn't quit. Martin says, most places I traveled to, the salsa scene is way bigger than the West Coast Swing. Why do you think that is? What are the best ways to grow the West Coast Swing scene? I love that question. Does anyone want to take a stab? Why is salsa bigger than West Coast?
Where are you traveling to? I'm curious. Because like Miami and that kind of thing, I would assume there's more live salsa bands. So I think it depends on if there's a live band, if there's an open, because here we don't have a country dance bar at all. So it's a little bit easier to actually find salsa places rather than country places, which is interesting. But yeah, I don't know.
I think culturally salsa is in cultures in families. Like you'll see You'll see people dancing on the streets in different countries, and it's culturally in people a little bit more than West Coast swing is in, like, I don't think any of us grew up with our parents doing sugar pushes in the kitchen during family meals, right? But I think you're going to find that ethnically in cultures like salsa. So I think it's a cultural influence that makes salsa bigger. I know the congresses are very big and healthy. I think the infrastructure between those two, I think that the West Coast swing world, or certainly the ballroom world, has more infrastructure. Certainly ballroom does, in terms of studios and patterns and structure, in terms of a learning structure. Salsa and West Coast are, to me, similar in Argentine tango for me, and hustle to a smaller degree. They're Meghan would call fringe dances, I call cult dances, right? Because those of us, bless you, salseros, for hanging out with us, because it seems to be that people who get into West Coast swing just love West Coast swing, and they live and breathe West Coast swing, and that's all they do. Salsa dancers love salsa. They don't care. They just want to dance salsa. Argentine tango dancers, they just want to go to milongas, and that's all they want to do, right? So I think that part of it is a cultural thing. That being said, West Coast swing is the state dance of California.
It is.
Since 1980 something, and the swing dances are a very American thing.
Well, they're also very versatile too. You can do them to a whole bunch of different genres of music, which makes it very easy to find different styles of music to dance to.
Yeah. Marcia says West Coast swing is challenging for beginners.
For
beginner guys specifically, yes.
Yes.
We did a video we have a Frustration Fridays video where we talk about struggles of West Coast swing dancers, and one of them is, I forget what the title is.
Why West Coast swing is harder than other dances.
Yeah, why West Coast swing is harder than other dances, and it's because it's not a mirrored dance, right? In cha-cha, if I'm moving left, the follower is moving right, it's mirrored, right? In salsa, if I'm rocking forward, the follower is rocking back, it's mirrored. So it's a little easier to understand. Even for us teaching, you could teach the basic cha-cha footwork on the guy's leader's footwork, and then it's just flip the follower around and start on a different foot. It's the same thing. So West Coast does not have that at all.
No. I think that video is coming out in April.
Oh, the video's coming out in April. Sorry, we're getting ahead of it. We shot so many
Coming
videos.
to YouTube soon.
Coming to YouTube. Tango Tribe. Tango Tribe says, just grab your West Coast Swing ebook. Wow, lots of goodies. Thank you. I'm happy for your recent pay a teacher promotion that brought your work to my attention. Oh, that's cool, Tango Tribe. So for those of you guys who don't know, we do a promotion once a year or so. It's a giveaway, and so we want to promote both online learning and in-person learning because they're different. Obviously, in-person learning is better. It's typically more expensive, and you're limited to people, teachers, locations.
Who are in your area, yeah.
Who in your area. So we want to combine the both. So we do a giveaway where we give $500 to a teacher of your choice. So $500 in private lessons. So you guys can enter that. If you go to West Coast Swing Online, there'll be a pop-up there. You can find the giveaway on our YouTube, on our Facebook channel, Facebook/West Coast Swing Online. Scroll down, you'll find the giveaway. And so we give on April 1st, March 31st, whatever the giveaway date is.
One of those dates.
One of those dates. We're gonna
and
give.
It won't be a fool's joke.
We're gonna give $500 to a private lesson teacher of your choice. So if you enter the giveaway, we'll drop that in the link in the description below. $500 to a West Coast Swing teacher of your choice, plus a lifetime subscription to West Coast Swing Online to promote both.
It says a year on all the promo
says a
stuff,
year,
but
but
he went crazy and wants to do a lifetime subscription.
Lifetime
so
subscription.
Your
Yep.
lucky day.
And thanks for the shout out for the ebook. I spent all of my October and November and into December cobbling that together. It is a killer resource. By all accounts, we should charge for it. So shameless promotion. If you want to support our work, you can go to westcoastswingonline.com, enter your email address on the front. You can get a free membership. You can also sign up for $20 a month to access all of our content. So everything that we shoot, some goes in emails to go out to people, some goes on YouTube. All of it goes to the channel. It's a great new video player we have. You can search everything by, yeah, what do you like about it? Tell us about it.
You can search for things.
You can search for things. There's drop-down menus to divide dances out by dance styles counts. So if you want an intermediate pattern that's 8 counts, and then you type in reverse whip, it will kick out 16 videos that are of an intermediate level that are 8 counts, 6 counts, 8 or more counts, and then have your keywords. So you can use it's a really good search function. It's actually a little bit better than, it's better than YouTube, I think. It's for sure better than YouTube. Someone says, salsa's huge here, even without live Latin music. Yeah, it's big. It's culturally big in lots of places. It's big here in Louisville. There's a good salsa community. We used to have salsa dances here before your time here. We used to have 100 people in the studio and a live band right back behind us. And then the crazy salsa dancers started selling booze out of here. And it got crazy. But it was fun. Ella says she invited a bunch of her friends to a free West Coast Swing class to hopefully get them into it. But then the coronavirus happened. Ella, shoot me an email, brian@westcoastswingonline.com. I will give you any resources you want for free to get your friends dancing, anything. I'll shoot a personal instructional video for them.
They can also watch the West Coast Swing classes, beginner, on Friday.
There's a beginner class on Friday, and if you miss that and they can't make it, you can get the replay. So the homepage for all the classes, westcoastswingonline/live. You'll be able to access all the classes.
I don't understand that.
Joni says, why are there more male leaders than female followers? Why are there more male leaders than female followers?
Why are there more guys?
Meaning there are more guys than girls
Yeah.
dancing in your area?
Well, send the guys over here because we have more ladies than guys, and then we can just even it out.
And we didn't used to. We actually did used to have more guys. So I think it just comes and goes.
It comes and goes.
Yeah, it's in waves.
So an interesting stat, we've been open, I think 15 years? 15 years as a studio? Ooh, that's crazy. You've been around the whole time, 14, 15 years?
Yeah, we haven't been open that long.
Yeah,
14 years? 2005?
yeah, because
We've
we had
been dancing for a long time.
We've been dancing a long time. Yeah. We've been dancing for a long time.
I think I've been stuck on 15 for a
So
while.
we have typically actually, in the history of the studio, had more leaders than followers. But it does ebb and flow. We're no different than anybody else. Some weeks are big classes, some weeks are small classes. Sadly enough, we had one of our biggest weeks ever right before the coronavirus. It was literally, we have a kids dance studio next door. We've had that for almost a year, and it actually turned a profit, and all the little kids, and it was super excited for the first month ever last month. Classes here were the biggest that they've been in a long time. We had one of the best 3 or 4 months we've ever had. Our online videos are going great. The dance cruises, everything was steaming along, and then this craziness happened. So, but we're thankful.
We'll get back there
We'll get back there.
eventually.
The Good Baby says, there are not many youngsters in the dance community over here in Long Island, but we have a great community. Yeah, so
Great.
explain young people and their attraction to country swing ballroom dancing or not. What do you
To
think?
country swing or West Coast swing?
Country, just social dancing.
Well, if you're going to a bar to try and pick someone up, you're probably going to do more line dance or country swing or two-step or salsa dancing, not necessarily West Coast. West Coast is very tricky to do first, and I think it's one of the hardest dances to learn just in general. So if it's one of the first things that they do, it might be a little daunting.
Yeah, but why are there not as many young people in the dance community?
I really think it depends on the area.
I
I
agree.
think we have a ton.
I think it depends on the area.
It also depends on if, I'm sorry? Marketing too, but also there's a lot of, if you're of the younger demographic, you're doing ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop, that kind of thing. So ballroom and partner dancing is not necessarily in the forefront because it requires a partner. And for a lot of that, if you're younger, if the kids are there, they don't have, there's like way more girls than boys that want to learn. So there's a huge ratio difference, which makes it hard to do partner dancing.
Yeah, where is the question? There you go. So why are there not as many? I think it's cultural too, meaning the culture within a community, the culture within a studio. So for us as a business, right, traditionally on the door, we are a ballroom studio, right? Like people would be looking up, and we do a lot of West Coast swing and country. And I don't think a lot of people knock on a dance studio door and say, hey, I want a polka or 222 or West Coast swing, right? But the culture in here is that's kind of what we do. We do West Coast swing, we do a lot of country dancing, and I've competed in ballroom professionally, and Meghan and I competed in Pro-Am for years, and I was in that community for a long, long time. And so why does everyone want a West Coast swing or two-step? It's just because that's what we do and that's what we're excited about. We also tend to have a lot of young professionals. So people who dance, who can afford to take private lessons and go away for the weekend, that stuff, tend to be people who have disposable income. And most of us think of that as like 50 plus, right? People who are embedded in their careers, or the kids have moved a house, empty nesters. But for us, it's people who have no kids, they have their big kid jobs, and so their extra money goes towards this.
Yay.
Yay for us. Yeah, so thanks guys. The Good Baby says that the West Coast Swing ebook would be a nice book to print also. We would have to sell it.
You could print it yourself. It would
Yeah.
just take a lot of
Someone
paper.
has.
Someone actually printed out the entire ebook, which is, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be a dork. Oh, I'm not on my computer right now, so I don't have the ebook. It's a lot of pages. Diane says there are many different types of swing: Lindy, jitterbug, West Coast swing, rock and roll, boogie, that are worldwide. Why do you think some dances like Ciroc and hand dance are more regional?
I don't know what Ciroc is.
Ciroc's in England and Europe. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
I
so
know what rock and roll is.
rock and roll, and what do we see when we were in
Rock and roll.
Austria? No, it wasn't rock and roll. Disco Fox,
that's what I
baby.
meant.
Disco Fox.
Really fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. And we're gonna bring country swing alive. So we did a beginner country swing video. So hang on.
It is alive.
Hang on tight. It's alive. We're gonna structure that thing. I was super inspired last night for our beginner country swing video. We're gonna do more of that stuff. So there's different types of swing. You know, Lindy, jitterbug, West Coast swing, rock and roll, boogie, worldwide. Why do you think some dances are popular in regions? And I'm gonna give you a weird Louisville only story. You guys might have heard this. What's it called? Wait a minute. What's the local dances here with only old people?
The Bop Club?
No. Now you're
Lodge.
no.
Are you thinking about smooth swing that doesn't happen anymore?
No.
The dance that we go to?
No. Oh, it's gonna come to me. Hang on.
I don't know what that description is or means.
Oh, it's gonna come to me. It just totally skipped my head. I'm gonna figure it out. Ella says that she sent a link from the live stuff, and she's happy we're doing these videos. We're super stoked to be doing these videos. West Coast Swing Online/live.
Thanks for joining us.
Rick says there's no place to dance West Coast Swing in New Hampshire, but Boston has quite a bit. They have several big competitions. Are you planning on coming to Boston area? Fun fact, I grew up in Boston. I was born in Brockton, Massachusetts, Rocky Marciano. I lived in West Bridgewater and Arlington, Mass. And when I moved back years ago, I danced quite a bit there. So obviously I moved here before I danced. And when I went back, I found out some friends of mine were hosting a dance, including my best friend who lives here now. He's from Lowell, Mass. You saw him on one of the earlier videos, Louis St. George. They were hosting a dance in Arlington, Mass. It was literally in the left field of my high school baseball stadium. So it was like a boys and girls club in the left field of my high school baseball stadium. And so 20 years after I left high school, I went back, maybe 15 or so, I don't remember what it was. And there was a West Coast swing dance in the left field of my high school baseball stadium.
That's
so
cool.
yeah, Boston has a good community for sure. Sandra says, I gave this website to several today. Thanks so much for great classes. Yes, Sandra, have them sign up anywhere that you can enter your email address on anything of ours. And you will end up on our Move of the Week email list. So we send out emails every other Tuesday at 2. We've sent out a few extra emails to promote this stuff.
And the giveaway.
And the giveaway and some stuff like that. But basically, the regular groove is you'll get an email every other week with West Coast Swing videos. And from there, we are building out Country Dance Online for country dancers. So we'll have, what are we going to have on Country Dance Online?
Everything that is
Like-
country dance.
Like, what is country?
Two-step, cha-cha, East Coast, waltz, polka?
Maybe some polka. Nightclub. Yeah. We're going to have country swing. We're going to have tons of stuff.
And triple two. do.
And we're gonna bring that out. We have another site coming soon, Social Dance Online, that will cover all those dances. So basically, regardless of which of those sites you join, you'll end up on our video site. If you're a member of our site, it's only $20 a month. You will end up on our back-end video player that will literally contain everything. So in time, for $20 a month, you will get access to all of our videos in all dance styles. George says, Jill says hello. Hello, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
George says, do any of you guys dance hustle?
I like hustle a lot.
I can follow hustle.
Bingo. And George, to answer your question, earlier on, someone asked about dancing multiple dance styles. When I was learning West Coast swing, so I line danced and I was learning two-step and West Coast, and I remember going to a weekend event and I was taking all the classes because I was addicted, and I was getting confused as heck. So I knew about 5 or 6 hustle patterns and West Coast swing patterns, and I was in a West Coast swing, I was in a hustle class, and I was leading West Coast swing and I couldn't sort them out. So I stopped dancing hustle at that point, and literally, I'm a snapshot in time. I know like 5 hustle patterns and a 6th pattern that John Lindo taught me for a show years ago. So I know like 6 hustle patterns to this day. Do the pro and champion level West Coast swing dancers, Jordan, Tatiana, Ben Morris, Tessa,
Do they know you? Do you get to dance with them?
do you get to dance with them as both a lead and a follow? Yes. So I have known Jordan, Tatiana, Ben, Tessa and Miles. I know Miles' brother Toby. I've known them all for 20 years now, 2020, since for a good 20 years. So I've known them all for 2020. So yes, I know them all. I have danced with them all. Ben has actually been here and taught in our studio a long time ago when he was a baby.
With Melina.
With
Baby
his
Ben.
former partner, Melina. When I picked him up from the airport, my car actually broke down on the way from the airport. Random. Yes, I've known those guys for a long, long time. I love them. I respect them. They are the cream of the crop in West Coast swing. They've done this for a long, long, long time.
And Gary and Susan, I guess, too.
Yep, Gary and Susan at the top of West Coast swing now as far as the U.S. Open. But you know, when you're talking about Jordan, Tatiana, and Ben, and Miles and Tessa, you're talking about people that have done this for 2 decades. They are A-list at what they do, and kind of our goal is to support the bridge between the coolest people and the people's champion. I think we're like the people's champion, right? Because we are still, in all these years, I think the difference between some of the weekend traveling teachers, and I've been one of those people where I made my living just traveling weekend to weekend all across the world, and I think the biggest difference is we've always taught a class here. So we're very connected to the new person walking through the door. What for you is the biggest difference between the event people and the people in the studio that don't go to events?
Well, it's kind of tough because a lot of our people do like going to events, but I think the event people are worried about Jack and Jills and points. I think that they are, like, if you're just going to events to go compete, typically you are doing Jack and Jills, and that's to kind of elevate yourself in the Jack and Jill levels. So I think it's, I think it is, I don't know. I think it's more about learning patterns and that kind of thing, and I think the people here kind of focus more on a good foundation rather than learning patterns and kind of trying to quickly move up the scale, if you will. That's probably the biggest difference. Yes, they need a foundation, but they're not as worried about it as they are perhaps making finals for
Jack and Jill points. I'm gonna answer your questions, but I'm gonna jump to my buddy Eric Zimmer. Eric and Jenica were supposed to go on our salsa cruise.
I have good posture, I'm good.
Eric is an amazing physical therapist. He has been, if you guys ever run into Eric Zimmer anywhere, lucky for you guys if you do. I've been an athlete since I was 5 years old, and Eric is one of those rare people that has been a dancer and a bodybuilder, and those are dynamically different things. A ballet dancer and a bodybuilder, so he's been muscly and he's been lean and flexible. Completely different dance sports, and he understands the human body like nobody's business. and I have been through a lot of people, and so he knows his stuff. And I wish that Eric Zimmer would do videos for dancers with his knowledge to get that out to people.
He already has some videos.
Yeah, there you go. So, Eric Zimmer, love that guy. Stephanie says, I'm located in Maryland and have noticed that the dance attendance has definitely gotten smaller. I have my thoughts as to why. Stephanie, tell me why, I'm curious. And we've gotten more people that are older. What about other places? What's your feeling about dance communities as we've traveled around? What do you think? What's good, bad? Have you seen any tree dance long enough? What's the trend?
I think on average, our group for sure is a bit younger than the average group everywhere else that I've been. But as a rule, it comes and goes. Like I said before, it ebbs and flows as far as people coming in and out. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's much a culture. It ebbs and flows. So the interesting thing for me is, and I said this in an interview once, West Coast Swing Wellness. Google West Coast Swing Wellness. There's a gal there that, yeah, we've got a cool video that's coming out, an interview I had with those guys. And we talked about the differences. It's an interview I did with a West Coast Swing Wellness blog, a life coach type person.
Cool.
Now I lost my train of thought.
All
Squirrel.
right.
What were we talking
Squirrel.
about? What were we talking about right before that?
Areas.
Oh, and so I explained to her, I said, I'm interestingly, I sit between the new school and the old school, right? I don't feel like I'm completely old school, but I also don't feel like I'm new school, right? New school is like the last 10 years with the advent of YouTube and all the free video. So I understand, because I grew up watching the old school and I've watched the new school come up, and I sit in between. And what I've learned through that is I've seen enough. I haven't been around forever, but I've seen enough to know that there are ebbs and flows, and that does not necessarily mean a complete negative change or shift. So if you're in a community that seems like it's shrinking, I wouldn't be particularly worried like there's some major cultural shift. I'd be more interested in just doing your best in your community to encourage people as best you can. If you're in a community where you think, this girl says this and this girl's this way and that stuff, that goes on everywhere. Everywhere. Don't stress about it. Do your thing, do your part, and the community will be fine. I actually don't like that word, community.
Your dance community?
Yeah.
Dance family?
Yeah, I don't like the word
group?
community.
We'll look up some synonyms and get back to you.
Could we please teach Disco Fox? The music is so funky and needs to come to North America. I was blown away by Disco Fox. I wish I could remember the couple we met.
I am friends with them on Facebook.
Are you really? We're gonna look them up. They were like my brother from another mother. We met. We were staff in an event in Austria, not Austria, Graz, Austria. Graz, Austria. It was Austria. Graz, Austria, and he was kind of a ballroom Latin guy who'd started in Disco Fox, so he had the fundamental understanding of dancing, and he brought it to the street dance called Disco Fox, and him and his partner, maybe one of the best girls I've ever danced with, just socially speaking, phenomenal. So I love that dance. So yes, the music is really cool. It's a little bit like country swing in that it's very versatile like West Coast swing.
It's a lot like hustle.
It's a lot like hustle. It's a lot like hustle, but with the musicality from the really good people, not by me. Yeah, the musicality is really cool like West Coast swing. Michael says, I saw your country swing video today. It looks like what I do in merengue, just slower. You show me another way to apply moves to a different rhythm. Yeah, I'm kind of big on country swing, and if you look up country swing on YouTube now, you'll see a lot of stuff that's
a whole bunch of random stuff out there.
whole bunch of random stuff. And so we did a little homework on that. What was your takeaway of country swing in its current state on YouTube?
It's inconsistent. So I used to teach it when I was in Texas, and it's exactly what we taught, or you guys taught yesterday. So it is, there's a lot of inconsistencies, which makes it hard for a follower to follow it if you're out in the bar scene. There's a lot of yanking. I saw someone, we don't do this version of it, let me just preface that, but I've seen somebody be taken to a hospital because they were flipped on their head. So we're doing the safe version of country swing, and it's super fun, and you can do it to a whole bunch of different music. So I have always been a big fan of country swing.
Yeah, and I think what's going on, like if you look at a particular dance form, if it's done poorly, it looks like it's bad. So if you watch, International Latin Cha-Cha on YouTube and you see Ricardo and Yulia and you see some of the phenomenal, amazing people, you go, that dance is amazing. Nope, it's just really good people. If you watch a local Yahoo dance with a bunch of social dancers, it doesn't look nearly as good, right? And if those people end up on YouTube or teaching classes, it's not going to look as inspiring. But I don't hate on them. It's just that the dance form isn't as evolved. So
we're going to add some structure.
We're going to add some structure to country swing because I think it's quite cool, the structure of it. And the people that are dancing it, they're just sharing what they know, and no harm, no foul. Someone says our ebook is 398 pages long. Boom, I edited every single one of those. There's typos all over the place, there's grammatical errors, but it is what it is. The information's good. Stephanie, circling back to her thoughts about the dance community, says that why is there a slight decline in her dance community? That people are starting their lives and it's not as a priority as it once was. 100%.
That happens.
100%. So we have young professionals. So what happens with young professionals?
They meet someone and then they get engaged and they get married and they have babies.
And they stop dancing.
And they don't dance as much anymore.
Right, happen all the time. The developer for our website, Orlando, shout out to Orlando, he met his wife literally about 20 feet to my left at a salsa dance here at this studio. Miss Emily, and they were both vibrant members of our dance community.
Not me.
Different Emily, different Emily, different Emily.
Not this Miss Emily.
And they've got a baby, Miss Sophia, the first baby of Dance Louisville, and so they don't dance anymore. They don't dance anymore.
They have a onesie and everything.
Yeah. Diane said, I first saw hand dancing at Mad Jam in the mid-90s and immediately loved it, but it doesn't seem to be anywhere outside of DC. Correct. That's the only place I've seen in the late 90s, early 2000s I saw hand dancing in DC.
Their state dance?
Diane says,
No.
Stephanie says, Diane, that's not true. You just have to find the right spots. There are pockets, I assume, of hand dancing in many different places. Yeah, probably true. Probably, and this is an interesting story that I have relative to line dancing. So I had line danced starting in the late 90s, 97, and I achieved some success as a competitive line dancer and danced all around the world. We got some Facebook comments coming up here in a second. And I traveled all around the world. And then somewhere in the DC area, someone came across soul line dancing. And so it is a urban black community of line dancers that have their own set of line dances that aren't part of our bigger world of line dance, the ones that go to events and all that stuff and have the choreographers and all that stuff. But there's a community of line dancers that I never knew existed, that it was super heavy and popular from like Philadelphia through DC and Maryland and that area. So there are sub-communities of dancers.
They're awesome. I taught some soul line dances here a couple years ago.
Bingo.
It's fun.
Super fun. What's the difference between hustle and West Coast swing? Go for it, Miss Emily.
You're the only one that can answer this.
Completely different timing. Yes, there are some of the same moves, aka the hustle whip in West Coast swing, but it is typically done to faster music. It is an off-time dance, so there's that. Both are a lot of fun. What?
It's a big dance from the disco era.
Big dance from the disco era.
It's a big dance from the disco era.
So in terms of like why things are popular in different areas, it just finally came back to me. Rat dance. Does anyone know what rat dance is? Does anyone know what rat dance is? Do you know what rat dance
No.
is? No one knows what rat dance is.
No.
In Louisville, Kentucky, there is a dance form called the rat dance. It is only done here in Louisville.
Dance form. I thought it was a dance group.
To me,
I'm so
no, it's a
confused.
dance form. And to me, it is like the
insane.
Loch Ness Monster. So a group of people And in this group of folks, if you are 70 years old, you're you're the youngster in the group. So we have ladies, I can't remember her name, that's danced West Coast Swing with us for a little while, who's probably 95 years old now and has danced off and on since she was like 5 years old. And so this group of dancers started dancing together like 60 years ago. And they, to my best guess, and this is me making it up, morphed a probably existing dance into something they called rat dance, to what they say is circular and moves around the outside of the floor like a rat on a wheel, is what they say. The rat dance. And it exists in Louisville, Kentucky,
Only in Kentucky.
in the Germantown neighborhood outside of downtown, at a couple of different halls. And some of those dancers, a few of them, typically the youngsters who are like 70s-ish, will come into the rest of our community and dance in the bop club and come to some of the studios, but they also rat dance occasionally at these halls in Germantown. And this entire dance form exists here in Louisville. If you Google it, you might find an article on it, like maybe one, that it even exists. And it has lived for 50 plus years in this city, in a particular neighborhood, in different dance halls with a group of people. It is likely to die off with that group of people, quite literally, right? But these guys have lived here, your whole life since you moved from Australia when you were a baby. 7 years, 6 years?
6 years.
6 years. Benjamin, how long have you lived here?
9.
9 years. Never heard of rat dancing, and it exists in this community, literally 10 miles from us. So there are pockets of dancers everywhere. Any final questions?
There's more on there.
Um,
Maybe not.
The steps are not the same.
I think that was.
John says, still perplexed with musicality, but I'll watch it again and again. Yes, John. Yes. If you're in bucket number 1, you can stay on time. Then you will have your mind blown with the counting straight eights. That would be expected if I were to make a guess. Most people, their minds would they would explode with the counting straight eights. So yes, go through that. Sign up in the link in the description below that musicality course, the musicality video on YouTube. And when we have the course ready, that will be really good for you. We'll walk you through step by step. Each step is important in the process. Before you move to the bottom of that. Carmen, who's a fantastic dancer in her own right, replied to...
That's not Guy.
Yeah.
In his own right, sorry. Sorry, Carmen. Snazzy dresser, Carmen.
Yes.
Love your suit jackets. The steps are not the same. The steps are not the same between hustle and West Coast swing, yes.
Correct.
The rhythm structure and the pattern structure, each dance has its own rhythm structure and pattern structure. And Skippy Blair, who is instrumental in West Coast Swing. She helped found the World Swing Dance Council and get West Coast Swing as a state dance. Says that every dance has a rhythm structure, and if you're not adhering to that, it's like wearing someone else's clothes. It just doesn't fit. Mr. B, 501, traveling in the Western states, I see some country swing. It's poorly executed. Mainly, I think it's because most of them, how they learned to dance on the living room floor when they were growing up. Yeah, for sure. And one of my like weird life dream goals, dance-wise, I want to do an RV trip to a lot of the northwestern states that I haven't been to. North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, some of those states that are still missing that I haven't visited. And I would love to pop into country bars and learn from people who learn stuff and learn some of the moves and patterns, and then put some structure to it. And that's what I want to do with
Country swing.
I'd love to do that for country swing, and I would love to do that with rat dance here in Louisville. And my final parting story of rat dance. Did I tell you this story? Johnny, remember Johnny Best? Johnny Best. Johnny Best was a student here. He came in with his girlfriend years ago, and he was a, what's the word?
Hairdresser?
He was a hairdresser, and he goes, I can't say it. Anyways, Johnny, it's a little off color. I ran the scenario in my head, a little off color. But Johnny B got invited to one of the dances like, 10, 12 years ago. And so I sent him with my camera. This is back before we had cameras in our phone. So I sent him with my physical camera. I said, can you please video this? Because I want to see what the basic is, and I want to learn it, and I want to like preserve it. And so he went and he shot it and he came back home and he brought me the camera and he goes, B, I got it. And I looked at it and it was like someone said I caught the Loch Ness Monster on video. And I looked at the video and it was completely blurred. So he got me footage of the Loch Ness Monster, but I couldn't see it. Yes, Gordon, rat dance. So any other final questions? We're going to jump off here.
You're
Carmen
awesome.
says
Yay.
he has all of his students watch our videos. Thank you so much. We try to, our videos came as a product of our own, scratch your own itch, right? So we would teach classes here and we would
Do the move of the week.
do like everybody else. We would go and look at YouTube and come up with a move and try to do it in a way that we could teach in class. So 95% of our material came out of that in a way to try to create our own fundamental way of teaching stuff that other people were doing in a very advanced way, in a way that we could give away to other people. So any parting thoughts? I had all these questions, but we had all
That
these.
can be for next time.
I didn't get to answer.
What are your
Thanks
favorite?
for joining us for your
What are your-
daily dose of dance.
What are your favorite types of students to teach, Miss Emily?
I like students who are eager to learn. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of students that also practice, because I think that outside of your lessons, you can take as many lessons as you want, but if you don't practice outside of them, it will not necessarily be ingrained in your body. And so every student that I've had has been engaged and wanting to be there and practice on their own. And so I like them all, but if you are engaged, it helps a lot.
And so cultures, because Miss Meghan has been here since before Miss Emily, and so you remember when the culture in the studio was to not practice.
Oh my gosh, nobody practiced.
Nobody
Including
practiced.
myself.
So the culture in your community, and we can lead by example, is just that. Like, we had a culture where you came in, took your lesson, went home. That was normal. And then now people were closed for business and people are beating down our doors. Our students who want to come in and they want to practice, they still want to have their lessons and they can't. But the culture has been set that they want to come in and they want to practice and they want to participate. So much in that same way, we can create the culture in our community by leading by example. And once, it doesn't mean it's going to happen immediately. It doesn't just happen because Meghan decides she's going to practice that everyone's going to practice. But pretty soon Meghan does, Emily does, Ben does, Brian does, and now the new person in the room just thinks that's what the norm is. And you can take that same thought process to being nice to people, introducing yourself to new people. You can just run the gamut and you can create the culture in your own community in a way that works for you guys. So on that note, we're going to jump off. Thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow
East Coast Swing.
with East Coast Swing beginner and then intermediate. And if you have any suggestions, shoot us an email, brian@westcoastswingonline.com. The page to follow for these live classes is westcoastswingonline.com/live. And then for those of you guys who have stayed the whole night and messed with either the styling courses, you can go to that styling page. At the bottom are the links to the two courses, the ultimate guide to leader styling and follower styling. They are literally complete guides, step-by-step, to cover everything that they taught, a ton more. There's like 20-something videos in each course. The Musicality course, go to the Musicality link on YouTube. In the link in the description below, you can enter your email address and be on the waiting list for when we launch the new Musicality course. The current course is legit. We went through it today.
People who have the current course will.
Yeah, and the people who have if you have the current course, you're going to keep all that material. We're going to fill it out with more things that we've learned from you guys to kind of complete the 3 levels to numbers to leave numbers. So thank you guys. Wait, boom, boom. Thank you, Benjamin. We're out. See you guys again tomorrow.